YouTube, what's going on? This is Carrington Vaughn. It's been some time. It's been a lot of progress. A lot of things have changing. I'm finally an attorney and been able to enter into the corporate job market. And I wanted to really uh, get on here and do an impromptu video on athletes transitioning into careers. One thing that I've recognized from you can see from the title is former athletes aren't prepared for corporate life. This is one thing that I've recognized and something that's been echoing a lot in sentiment that I've realized, if you look at the NIL things that are going on right now, if you look at even professional sports, there's so much money being thrown around. Uh, and whenever you get into life after sports, there's a completely new metric to determine success. And I feel like a lot of athletes are so underprepared in how they approach not only the strategy for a career in a life after sports, but also just like what really matters and how to be successful whenever they're done playing. I know in my personal experience, when I played at Arizona, we didn't have many internship opportunities. A lot of times during the summers, we would be, working out and get ready for the season. And I didn't realize how bad that affected my ability to translate uh, my skill set and my resilience into the workforce. And I think so many other athletes are having that trouble as well because the transition, from life after sports is so unexpected. Athletes innately are super resilient, very competitive, but they lack the critical skills. One, they lack the direction and the identity beyond life after sports, but they also lack like the fundamental skills to be successful in the corporate world. Because you get in these corporate environments and no one's looking at how fast you are, you know what I mean, or you know how far you can throw or anything of that sort. They really look at how can you contribute to the bottom line of whatever that company is operating to do and how to be successful within their structure. So I think athletes are disciplined, coachable. They can perform under pressure. But whenever you get into the corporate world, you're a complete beginner over again, right? So anything that you thought that you learned, any type of skills, is a completely different thing. Even something as fundamental as like writing an email or corresponding with people, adapting to the pace of work, um, for any environment that you go into, right? I think from a foundational perspective, understanding a job versus a career. A job being something that you can easily plug and play anybody into. Right, you learn what needs to get done or what tasks need to be completed. But from a career, there's a specific skill set that you've been cultivating, specific experiences that compound on top of each other to make those skills translatable to different jobs within a specific career set, whether it be finance, for me like law, all these experiences and stuff. And so when I look back on my experience, not having those internships really did set me back, and it made me have to work double time to figure out how to catch up to the pace of work and just how these corporate environments work. So when it comes to professional experience and stuff, that is a big thing, right? The earlier that you're able to get different types of experience, uh, whether it be just like from a small business, a corporation, if you could get in the door and figure out, one, start in knowing like what industry that you would care about, and because corporate life, it's a long game, right? And just earning in your life overall, these are things that you want to be able to be happy in, right? You want to be able to uh, enter into a job and be competent and be able to contribute, similar to how you contribute to your team. And if you can't do that, that's going to affect your self-esteem. That's going to affect, how others see you, and you'll just be bouncing around without any directional focus within your career. I think another thing is just in terms of like networking and corresponding with people higher ups, right? And understanding like what is acceptable and not acceptable in these environments is something that also needs to be talked about. Because whenever you know how to talk to your coach, you know that if you make a bad play, you immediately have an opportunity to make up for it. In the next go around or the next series. That's easily fixable for the most part. But in a corporate environment, it's like you make a mistake. Sometimes that compounds, and then these people see you a specific type of way, and you become unreliable, and you don't want to make a name for yourself as being incompetent or not being able to contribute to the work amongst your peers. So whenever you go in these environments, that work experience and all that stuff compounds because you know how to operate. You know what skills you bring to the table, and you can lean on those skills all throughout your career. Um, so in terms of like dealing with higher ups, like knowing what information to get from them and when, right? So sometimes like if you have a question, you got to figure out and finesse how to get those answers without acting clueless. Or I really think that there's kind of in most jobs it's like a 90-day period where you have to show yourself able and capable to complete these tasks without leaning on too many people all the time, right? You want to go into there with the right mentality, with the right skill set, and the ability to, like, if you're given an assignment, to complete that assignment on task, and keep the pace of work for you and your team members, uh, you know, going along, right? So you have to figure out what needs to happen, understand why it matters, and create solutions for you and your peers. Um, I think also like athletes for the most part, even in myself, the reason I went to law school was I felt like I needed to learn more about the world. I felt like I didn't really understand, how things worked. So law school kind of helped me figure out the boundaries, right, of the field. Like, what can I do? What can I do? Whether it be in business, entrepreneurship, or just in corporate environment. Like, what are the rules of this new game, right? Because the corporate world is a completely new game, and the more you know about it, the boundaries of things and how things work, the better you'll be able to operate, and the more opportunity for success that you'll probably have. So when you go into a new job, or you select the industry, it's like, okay, I want to get into logistics, I want to get into finance, I want to get into law, right? You have to understand the boundaries of what you're walking into, because that's going to help you to succeed even more easily, because you understand what you're doing, or you understand the bigger picture of what's going on around you. You want to understand, how does company make money, who's the customer, how does the work I'm doing affect the revenue, right? You want to understand why your job matters, and how you can continue to add on to what's already in place, right, and showing yourself useful. um, so it's easy. You can take, your leadership, your discipline, your accountability, and teamwork, resilience, all these different things can aid you as you're transitioning outside of sports. It's so funny because in sports, the overall goal, right? The championship, the MVP. These are metrics that are easily visible. But in terms of the corporate world, you are basically depending on your success level to get you promotions, right? And there's no definitive timeline for that. Like in a game, like, first quarter, second quarter, you know what I mean? End of the game, there's a time clock. Everything is measurable. There's another opportunity to succeed very quickly, after a new possession, or whatnot, right? But in corporate, there's not really that metric. So you have to be strategic in knowing, like, okay, I'm going into this company, and you understand like the timetables of how things work. And you have to be even more strategic, because you could set yourself back going to a company that's not contributing to your bottom line skill set. Some of those skills aren't transferable to the next thing. Like, some of these jobs, like, they're a dead end essentially. So what you want to do is focus on, um, how can I build upon this skill set, and how is it um, in connection with where the world is going, where economics are going? Will my job be relevant, over time? And I feel like that's extremely important, because overall, you want to be excellent in everything that you do, and you want your life's outcome, you want your earning potential, you want just like your overall ability to contribute to this world, you want it to be substantial. And if these things aren't strategized and mapped out, it gives you a less likelihood of success. So I say all this to say, like, I encourage former athletes to just go into similar to what I did, a serious deep work period. There's years of just reading books and understanding, like, especially when you're done playing. Like, I got injured. I tore my ACL, my meniscus, medically retired, and then I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next? And what are the skills that I need to do that? Because in the locker room, I wasn't having those conversations. We were talking about, girls, and just other teams and different things like that. So the conversations weren't as substantial. But if you're able to think like, okay, so what is the business world like? What industries are growing? Where what certifications or what skill sets can I develop in order to be successful in this next era of my life. And so I encourage athletes to continue to network, connect with people, and figure out how you can be successful, how they can help you, and understand how to be valuable to that person. So it's not so much just taking information from someone, but also provide value back to them. And the more you have these conversations with people, the better you'll get just in communicating. Because people will help you if you are more strategic and direct with what you want. Right? If they know how to help you and they see that you're putting forth the initiative to do that, they'll help you. But if they think you're just kind of you're unprepared, you come to the conversation, you don't really know anything about the industry, you haven't done any pre-work, then they're less likely to help you. But if you come prepared and knowing what to say, that'll give you a way better outcome. So my mission is to help athletes to adjust way faster to the corporate world and give them a higher likelihood of success and happiness after they're done playing, because it's already just a grueling adjustment when you lose a sport that you've loved for so long. So uh, put in the comments below your experiences, or what your ideas on what I'm saying, or any ideas of next conversation. I'm looking forward to just you know giving any game that I can possibly give. It's been 8 years now that I've been post sports, and I went through law school. Finally passed the bar, and now I'm an attorney. So any way that I can help or any advice I can give, I'm happy to help. So thanks so much. Subscribe, like, and let's see if we can get this conversation going. Take care.